So this section of TEDx is about reframing. And in comedy, reframing is our tool. We use comedy to retool people's experiences, to reshape their experience. Most of you know by now that I am a comic. My wife and I own the Stress Factory Comedy Club in New Brunswick, New Jersey, 732-545-4242. It's a family business. I work with my family. And for a long while, I had the opportunity to work with my mother, which you can say that as a past tense. You can say it was an opportunity if it's in the past tense. My mother and I had a great time working together. And she got to know all of the comedians, everybody that came in there. She got to know and be friends with. And then one of them, rather, was Angel Salazar, who Angel is a bit of a train wreck of a human being. He'll tell you that himself. He is most known for his role as Chi-Chi in the movie Scarface. And I will leave it at this. Angel did a lot of research for his role in the movie Scarface. He's a womanizer. He tried to bet every woman that he met. And somehow, my mother and he became very good friends. And I know what you're thinking. But it did not happen. He tried, but it didn't happen. And I had a great time. And then one day, my mother called me up, and she had leukemia. And leukemia is a very, very encompassing thing to have. If you're not careful, if you don't reframe your life, when you have leukemia, that is all you have. You will hear people say, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, I'm going to get up and grab my leukemia and go have lunch, and I'm going to grab my leukemia and go shopping. My mother was very careful never to let leukemia take over her life. She was always looking for a way to reframe and repurpose and keep us all laughing. I remember one night I went to see her at Riverview Hospital. It was late at night, probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I was coming home from work, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I hear music from my mother's room, and I walk in, and she is dancing in her room with the music playing way too loud with a chemo drip. I said, what the hell are you doing? And she goes, oh, I'm dancing with my partner. I'm bald, but he prefers it that way. Like, only you could think of it that way. And she made us laugh the entire time, all the time keeping in touch with the club, talking to different comics. And then, as is so frequently the case, leukemia was her last battle. And there was a funeral to plan, a Catholic funeral. It's when you're planning a Catholic funeral that you'll most frequently wish that you were Jewish. It is such a show business affair to plan a Catholic funeral. There's going to be 2 big days and 2 shows every day. And you better get it right. There's just so much to do. There's flowers to consider and wardrobe and hair and makeup. A lot of questions from the funeral director. Will you need the big room or do you need the little room? Well, Mom's last album was a hit. Better take the big room. You got to get the room choice down right. Don't blow the room choice, because there's nothing more depressing than an empty wake. That's the worst. You want a standing room only, sold out wake. Nothing worse when you walk by, he's just there, alone, and you're, I don't know what happened there. There's 2 ways to guarantee a sold out wake. One is to live your life in a fashion that people love you, and that they want to come and celebrate with you and be with you. The other way is to live your life in such a way that hundreds of people will show up just to make sure you're dead. My mother had a standing room only funeral. It was packed, and for the right reason. She was a great woman. All of my comedian friends came. The biggest names in show business, in comedy, I should say, were at that funeral. I mean, Jim Breuer was there, and Louis Black, and me. I went to all 4 shows. Angel Salazar promised he would go, and then he didn't go to the first show. He told me he was going, he didn't. He called me up that afternoon and said, Vinny, I got tied up. I'm going to come tonight. And that night he didn't come again, and he called me up. He said, Vinny, I'm sorry, I got tied up at a party. I didn't have to tell Angel that that's not necessarily the excuse you want to use when you miss someone's wake. He promised to come the next day, missed both shows, and then he called me late on the last night and said, is there any way I can come tomorrow? I said, Angel, tomorrow is just for the family. It's just going to be the family. We're going to say goodbye to Mom. And I'm sorry, there's just no chance for you to come at that point. He goes, Vinnie, I have to go. I loved your mom. I said, Angel, I'm sorry. It's just me and my sisters, and it just isn't an appropriate time. We're going to be there at 8:30. We're going to be done at 8:45. We'll be in the church. Go to the church, Angel. That's fine. Mom will know you're there. He goes, no, Vinnie, I have to go. I said, Angel, don't. It was 8:30 in the morning. The family was in there saying goodbye. We all said our goodbyes. It's always a terrible moment. You use laughter during the wake all the time to get through it. You have to endure a lot of moments during the wake. People say things to you that you just don't know how to react to. You're in the wake and people are saying, oh, she looks so good. She looks so good. You're supposed to just say, oh, thank you. I say, you should have seen her last week. The other thing you hear all the time, I'm so sorry. I'm so terribly sorry. The appropriate response is to nod and look somber. I said, you did this? So mad at you now. So the next morning, all the humor is done. You use the humor to get through all of that. Now the next morning, you're going to say goodbye. And that's just a little bit harder. It's not as much fun that day. 8:30 came. My sister said goodbye. I said goodbye. We're all getting done. They're really just about ready to close the top on my mom's casket. And everybody's upset. And bursting into the back of the room at 8:46 is Angel Salazar. He is dressed in a polyester three-piece suit that is from the movie Scarface. It's August 1st. It's 102 degrees out. He's sweating profusely. And he bursts in the door and goes, Vinnie, I'm so sorry. I got tied up in beach traffic. He goes, can I go say goodbye? I said, Angel, it's not the right time. He goes, no, I have to. And he walks over to the casket, and he kneels down by my mother, and he starts praying. He crosses himself. He starts praying. And my sister, who has no idea who he is, leans over and says, who is that small Puerto Rican fella at Mom's casket? I said, oh, that's Chi-Chi from Scarface. And for some reason, that made perfect sense to her. She said, oh, right, of course. I saw him on the list. I knew he was coming. Angel then did something this day. It chokes me up, and I apologize if I get choked up. But he had a cross on his neck, and he made the sign of the cross, and he took that cross off of his neck, and he laid it onto my mom's hand. And then he bent down, and he kissed my mom's hand. And I got to tell you, I can't talk about it today without getting choked up. I'll tell you when you know it's bad. The funeral director was crying. That's when you know it's bad. They've seen everything. If they're crying, it's a sad moment. And now everyone leaves, and only the pallbearers are left to carry my mom out. I'm one of them. And my sisters leave, they're crying. And I had some friends helping me. And they closed that casket down. And I remember picking it up and saying, oh, here's the rub. This is when you stop laughing. This is when you can't laugh any longer. All the jokes are done now. We're carrying my mom out. My dad predeceased my mom. I remember thinking very clearly, well, now it's up to me. Now I have the whole family to look after. And I was sad, and I thought, I will never laugh again. We carried that casket outside. It was a very bright August morning, the type of day that'll turn the sun will hit a car window and turn it into a mirror, and you can see your reflection in that mirror. We carried that casket out, and we loaded it into the hearse, and I was crying, and I hadn't cried the whole time. I thought to myself, I will never laugh again. I was standing up, but inside, I was down on my knees, and I was saying, I will never laugh again. That's terrible. I'm a comic. I have to laugh again. But how can you? And I closed that hearse door, and when I did, on the other side of that hearse door, standing, looking into the window that had been turned into a mirror by the sun, Angel Salazar is standing, looking into that mirror, behind which my mother's body now lays, and he is doing this. So laugh, everybody, because you have to, because it's the only way to reframe yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you.